Good afternoon. It's Thursday, April 22nd. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Harlan Municipal Board of Trustees. First item would be the approval of the agenda and conflict of interest.
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote.
Carol, aye.
Connie, aye.
Reese, aye.
Piper, aye. Next will be the approval of the consent agenda. All listed under the consent will be enacted in one motion with a roll call vote. There's no separate discussion of these items unless a request is made prior to the time the board votes on the motion. Including that will be the minutes of the April 8th electronic board meeting, the abstracts of claims number 1187 in the amount of $722,063.19, and upcoming board meetings for May 13th and May 27th.
And just for the May 13th one, I highlighted that because it will be an in-person one. We'll have paperwork for the SRF funding.
Okay.
It should be a short one, but you will be required to be in person.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Roll call vote.
Carol, aye.
Connie, aye.
Reese, aye.
Piper, aye. Right, next will be the amendment number 1 to the agreement for engineering services for Harlan Municipal Raw Water Improvements Project.
Yes, we have a outstanding agreement with Municipal Engineering on the engineering for the water plant. And so this is amendment number 1 to that agreement to add the engineering, planning, and design for utilities raw water improvements project.
That total amounts to $361,500, is that?
Yes.
So do they have a timetable on when they will start and finish that?
They just, originally they said roughly 18 months start to finish.
Okay. I move to approve amendment number 1.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Carol, aye.
Connie, aye.
Reese, aye.
Piper, aye. Okay.
And just one quick note, we did receive the final report. What we discussed at the last meeting was still a draft version. We have since received the final report on that raw water development. So.
Next will be the state revolving fund loan application. It's been accepted and approved to move forward with the loan process. Approval of U.S. Environmental Protection Agency assurance with respect to the real property acquisition. Title 3 of the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies of 1970 as amended. And the ACH disbursement receipt of funds to HMU.
Yes, this was, I forwarded an email to the board. We went ahead and made application for this. It's basically a short-term loan for the engineering and design work, planning and design, and it had an April 1 deadline for submittal. So we went ahead and submitted the application with the understanding that the board, if the board didn't agree, that we could just withdraw that application. We have since been notified that we were approved for that funding if the board determines that they want to move forward with that.
So how big is the loan?
I believe the loan's $400,000.
Yeah, so that pays for the engineering.
Yes. Yes.
And it gets paid back out.
3 years. Was it 3 years, John?
Believe it, I'd have to go back and look, but I believe it was 3 years.
So if we were to get a grant or some other type of funding, could we pay it off with those
Yes.
funds if we need to?
Yeah, we could include this. If we eventually get some longer-term funding for the overall project, we could roll this into it, maybe short-term and off, yes.
Is it a low interest rate loan?
Yes.
That's on my road, from my office. So, just consider you approve the
Application, most already been done. Second.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Reese, aye.
Aye.
And then the associated documentation with this is the reason we're having the May 13 in-person meeting, so we can go through all the proper paperwork that's required for loans and that type of thing. So it'll require 2 meetings.
Because at the 13th one, we have to set the public hearing for the 27th.
All right. Next, we have the Hawaii Pump Service rehabilitation of 6 wells in the amount of $49,800. This is a budget amendment.
Yeah, and up to the board, we may need to roll this over to May because of the way it's advertised. The proposal for $49,800 was to do 3 wells this fiscal year, which required a budget amendment to the current fiscal year. And then the other 3 wells, $25,000 of the other 3 wells is already budgeted into the next fiscal year. So we wanted to be very clear in the advertising and everything else that the $49,000 is just related to the first 3 wells. So it's up to the board if you want us to re-advertise this correctly and reconsider this in May. That may be the best approach at this time. But basically what it is, we've identified 6 wells that we could potentially go ahead and treat early. 3 now and 3 in July to try to boost production to help us over this current situation we have on volume and capacity. And so the idea was that we would try to get 3 done as a budget exception this fiscal year, do the work in June. Even though it would be recorded as work in progress this fiscal year, we probably wouldn't get invoiced until July or August for that work. And then the other 3 wells, we would be working through our normal well maintenance budget in the next fiscal year. Confusing?
Well, what would be the advantage of delaying it?
I just, was leaving it at the discretion of the board, considering the fact we advertised it as 6 wells at $49,000 rather. We're going to do 6 wells total, but the $49,000 is just related to the first 3 out of budget this fiscal year.
So you're not talking in regard to this, it has nothing to do with the bid or anything else?
No. I just wanted to be perfect, if the board was uncomfortable taking action the way it was written versus the way it really is, that's why I suggested if we need to lay it over for a week to make sure the publications are straightforward.
So this potentially could help with our water shortage.
Yes.
And the budget amendment's really only for 3 wells.
Yeah, for the
Because the
first
other
3,
3 were-
49,000, yes.
And then, well, next year, we only have 25,000 budgeted, so we probably have to make that budget amendment for the additional for the 49.
That'll be in the next fiscal.
That'll be in the next fiscal, yes.
And the reason it's a little higher is because we're gonna do a double shot, we're gonna do an air burst and acidization. So try to do a 2-step process to try to maximize any impact we're able to obtain there, so.
and these are on wells that long-term we're looking to keep for an operational one.
Yes.
So these are not any wells that we're going to shut down and drill new wells?
Pardon that?
These are not any of the wells that we're looking at shutting down
No.
and drilling new wells?
No, these are just ones we believe have the best potential to increase production from where they currently are.
So really our only thing is, we showed it on our agenda as 6 wells and it's 3 wells.
Yes. We can make that change if you're comfortable with that. I just didn't want, the fact that we advertised at 6 at that amount. I just wanted to be very clear and make sure everybody was comfortable understanding that dollar amount is related to the first 3, not budgeted.
Because it's early today, will it speed up how quickly it gets done?
We probably can get the work done in June, maybe as early as late May, but they're pretty busy right now working with rural regional water, which is also having some production issues. So.
I don't have a problem with
I think the sooner we get to that, the better.
All right, I'll move to approve it based on it being 3 wells at the amount of $49,800.
I'll second that. Roll call vote,
Carrie, aye.
Carol, aye.
Connie, aye.
Reason I.
Simon, aye.
Okay. Next would be the water policy, number 6, conservation use policy.
I have to apologize to the board that we got that to you late. We're still in the midst of revising that. Basically, what we did, we pulled the framework out of water-wise as far as going from water watch to water warning to water emergency, the 3 criteria for how you classify your production capabilities. And so we've been working with the city on identifying exactly what is relevant or to what our specific needs are. For example, we put an insert in there for bulk water because we have some farm chemical businesses that sell bulk water. We put a provision in there for the racetrack, that type of thing. So we just kind of tried to tweak those conservation policies or measures coming out of water-wise, which was kind of the larger generic, and we've been trying to fine-tune it down more specific to our needs. Like I said, we've been working with the city on this back and forth as well, so it's taken a little longer than we thought, but what we're asking for is primarily this framework of how we're going to step through working with our customers on water conservation measures. And the first things are voluntary. Basically, what we're asking customers to do is avoid non-essential water use between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. The second tier, or I should say the second step, when you get into the move from water watch to water warning, that's where you start getting into more specific things such as car washing and equipment cleaning and all these other types of things, either eliminated or restricted. And then that's also where the first kick-in is for our interruptible water customer as far as requiring them to diminish or decrease their amount of water usage. And then when you finally get to there's 2 tiers within the water warning, and then when you get to water emergency, then it's a specific order as far as who's shut off and that type of thing. But it also carries some framework for enforcement. We basically are proposing a 2-step enforcement. The first step is a notification, written notification to customers. If it was something inadvertent, it's up to us whether or not we apply a penalty, but that's where we start applying penalties to as much as 10 times usage over an allocation. And that's the other thing that's a little bit different in this, is we set up an allocation if we get to the most restricted point to where we look at like a customer's usage, say in March, and that becomes their average monthly usage. And then if they use so much over that average, then that's when the surcharges and stuff kick in. And when you get into the phase 2, or the second step of the surcharges, that is down to the point of disconnection of service. So we've got some very specific criteria in there now, not only for trying to progress through a decrease in water consumption, but then also some enforcement measures as well, if we get to that extreme point. The one thing we have determined to do, in the interest of the public and the needs of the community and that type of thing, we are working with the city. We're going to do a slow fill on the municipal pool, go ahead and fill the city pool, swimming pool. But it's going to be a slow fill as much overnight as we can to get out of that window where we have our peak demand. The Peterson Wellness Center, another facility, they already have their volume, so theirs is basically cleaning and what little evaporates. And then the city also is going to try to mitigate their evaporation by eliminating the slide and the fountain spray bubble, whatever you call that, and umbrella, that type of thing, which those are very much have a lot of evaporation associated with it. The other things that we've offered up, we have installed a process and a mechanism whereby non-essential uses such as dust control, street sweeping, some of those types of activities that we can arrange for non-potable water to meet some of those needs. So in other words, they aren't tapping into our potable drinking community source for those types of needs. So we're trying to look at all alternatives in that regard. There again, we're working very closely with the city in that area as well.
So if we get into these, whether it's a warning or a watch or whatever it is, do those change daily or weekly or how often?
We'll probably look at a weekly average as far as how far we're bumping and such. It's really too much to try to make a call on a daily basis. We'll be monitoring everything continuously, but we'll probably, if we make any adjustments, it may be on like a weekly basis. And that in conjunction with what the weather predictions are and that type of thing. So we'll monitor it very closely. And then the process is through the first the initial watch, the planning is that we'll come up with a piece that'll just appear in the paper, kind of a letter explaining what's going on, kind of the different steps of the conservation measures we're proposing. But then when we get into the water warning, we will physically issue a letter to each customer, an individual meeting when we get to that point to let them know what the situation is. So, but it's been evolving very rapidly. Like I said, we're still in the revisions, but we want to get the discussion out in front of the board at this point. The fact that policy number 6 is being revised, and it's basically we're calling it a final draft, but it still may need to be tweaked a little bit going forward. But we're looking for that initial approval of this version of conservation policy, water policy number 6. With the intention of moving forward, having some outline of criteria to go through. And like I said, if we need to tweak that over the course of the next 30 to 60 days, if we find something that we can't deal with, or that we need to add, or some other measure that's in here that we don't feel comfortable with, we can modify it at the next meeting. So.
This is in part being driven by the DNR requirements, correct?
The DNR did their survey, and basically, I have to report back May 1 what we have for a plan to address water supply. And, now that the board has approved McClure and the funding, that is my first step response to the DNR, that we're moving forward with engineering and planning and design work to meet this situation. We believe that will be satisfactory to the IDNR, at least to the first step. There are some things that they're going to require us to do by July 1. For example, we got to cap a couple of old wells, and they want to have a little bit more chance to look at the overall development plan. But realistically, if they're not comfortable with what we're proposing to do, they can step in and force the issue. That's kind of where we're at in our water supply and water situation, to be honest. They recognize that there's a long-standing issue that hasn't been addressed in the past.
And if they address the issue, what does that look like?
Then they become the design plan enforcement and tell us how much we have to spend and when we have to spend it and how we spend it.
As opposed to the third engineering plan.
Yeah. They forced the timetable and everything, so.
But at the last meeting, he mentioned he was going to give us guidelines for water policy, isn't it, or whatever. And these are, and
This is that water wise that they recommended.
yeah.
Yeah.
I make a motion we accept the water policy number 6.
I will second that motion.
Roll call vote.
Terry, aye.
Carol,
Connie, aye.
Reese, aye.
Cyber aye.
All right, next on the agenda, Mid-American Confidentiality Agreement regarding the Lisa Generation Station.
Okay. We all know what confidentiality means in the municipal world, and that is once we discuss it and talk about it, it becomes public. Basically, all of the minority owners, most of the municipals, have had a common interest in the future longevity of the Louisa generating station. And before Mid-America will engage in conversations as to the long-term operation, the eventual cleanup and everything else and costs associated with that, they have required all of us to basically enter this confidentiality agreement. And they know full well that as a municipal, it's really becomes public knowledge, but they won't talk to us without it, so.
I move approval of the confidentiality agreement.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Sure,
Caroline?
Hi,
Reese, aye.
Cyber aye.
Okay, next will be the insurance renewals as recommended by the insurance committee. The meeting, Terry and I attended those, so the property and casualty is going to have an increase of $50,000 to $500,000, and the cyber policies, workman compensation, health, dental, STD, LTD, AD, and D, life and health and vision, all with a 0% increase.
Just to clarify, the 50 to 500,000, that's on your 69, that's on line from.
On the 69 line, yeah.
And
Is
that's,
there what, is it 30,000 a pole?
Yeah, that's what they
Yeah,
said.
that was what it basically cost us to replace the last one. So the concern was that if we had like another, I can never pronounce it, derecho, some major storm that came through or a tornado, if it took down half mile of line or something like that, we don't have the insurance coverage to address that kind of thing.
and this is not the cost, this is just the coverage.
Coverage, correct.
That's the coverage on it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a year or 2 years ago, we looked at reducing coverage on the old plant and everything.
We did go through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was some discussion about moving a tenant potentially down there. Is that still on the table or whatever? Because we'd have to look at insurance coverage down there if somebody does go into that.
Yeah, that's a conversation we need to have on the old facilities. I mean, we've had interest in people wanting to rent the space, the city wanting to sub-rent the space. We've had interest, people wanting to buy the facilities. So it's
Was that the flood policy that we didn't renew? Remember there was one,
yeah, there was one flood policy we did renew, but there was also, we reduced the coverage on the overall buildings to basically just a cleanup, demolition and cleanup costs.
No content or anything like that.
No.
And I know if you become a landlord, you have to look at all those types of things. So.
Right. We'd have to increase the coverage. We'd have to look at our whole liability, if we had somebody in there as a tenant, that whole thing, so. But it's a situation that, we're eventually going to have to address. We do have a little bit of work left to close down the old head end facility down there. That's basically the only thing that's left in the old office building. We do still use the south portion of the building for equipment storage, trenchers, backhoes, a lot of the trailer equipment, that type of thing. So really to rent out the whole thing or to demolish it, we would need at some point to build a structure somewhere up in here to house that equipment. We just haven't gotten that far yet. We've had all these other things we've been dealing with, but just so the board knows, there has been interest in trying, and people interested in leasing the space, people interested in buying the old office, basically, so. Something we'll need to address.
So now we can't make any decisions.
No.
If somebody wanted to buy the office, is there a reason not to sell it? All we wanted was the office and we could keep the storage for now and.
We could probably find a way to partition it off.
Survey or something.
Yeah, and then that would just be a matter of potentially redoing some fencing or something. Just south of the building, you know, we had the newer clear well. So there's just some things that we'd have to figure out how we could protect them and, you know, keep them isolated, that type of thing. But, I mean, it's surplus property, in my opinion. We just haven't fully vacated it. And the biggest reason is because we haven't got anything up here to put that equipment in yet. Just, like I said, we've been underground conversion, fiber optics, water treatment plant, and we just had a lot of things to deal with otherwise, so it kept kind of getting pushed down the line.
And it's an expense to do something with it too.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, you know, if, because the city was pushing it too at one point, and I'm saying, well, not that I want to get into the landlord business, but and then, you know, like insurance costs associated with it and everything else. Yeah, we got way back on that. That was what, just 2 years ago or a year ago?
Yeah. What I can do is kind of work up a little work plan, some of the things we'd have to consider to look at alternate uses or potential sale of that. I can put that up to the board. If you consider that or discuss it at a future date, so. Yes.
Back to the renewals.
I make a motion that we approve the insurance renewals as recommended by the insurance committee.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Carrie, Caroline.
Connie, aye.
Reason I,
Cyber aye.
All right, next we're going to move into alleviate roofing change order to add gutters to the substation in the amount of $4,275.
Yeah, this is our east substation. We had water problems. After we put all the new equipment and everything inside, we realized the roof was leaking, so we did the roofing project to put a new roof on it. That was not quoted with gutters, and since that time, we've experienced some settling on the east side. I think it's east side of the building.
Be more on the west side.
On the west, okay, the
West side, because all that bank behind it,
Bank, yeah.
the water's running down, the roof's kind of pitched, and everything runs off the roof on the back side of that also, so.
And that's starting to settle. We're starting to see some cracks in the brick wall, that type of thing. So to alleviate some of that water issue, the proposal was to add guttering, redirect some of that water around the building.
they're gonna put gutter around all four sides?
This,
If I believe the way I understand it's gonna be on the two sides, and then they have to run the gutter on the back side and go back with about the hook into the front side, because the roofs run kind of a little slant, so all the water is running back to where the bank is, would all just settle back there. So we're trying to bring that out and run it out towards the Exchange Street, is what I'm trying to do.
It does say on here, will be installed on all sides of the building.
Yeah.
Okay, then they're gonna run the other one. It'll have to be at a different slope, because they gotta get it back to the front of the building now.
we're probably going to end up doing a little bit of grading on that backside too, but thank you, so.
And this does have a basement under this one here where it's housing the wiring on this one. We've got a hole and a sump pump in there, but there's times it doesn't keep up, so that's why we decided we better,
Water basement too.
yeah, we should keep it out of there.
I move approval of change order to add the gutters.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Carrie,
Caroline.
Connie,
Reason I.
Cyber aye.
okay, next would be the Ribbon Network Support Renewal in the amount of $20,495, pending legal counsel review. Has that been done yet?
No, we haven't gotten an answer back yet. This is annual support from Ribbon.
Can everybody hear me? This is Matt Hudson.
Yes.
Okay, I did look this up, but it looks like the only thing I had was this same report from 2020. Was there a different one that I was supposed to receive, I guess?
The Ribbon Network renewal,
Okay, I'll look for that then.
I'm not sure if it's been sent to you yet.
Yeah.
Okay, That's why I was double checking since I looked through my sent items, because when you send me something, I usually get to it pretty quickly and respond. So I just want to double check.
Jim, that's on the head end, what?
It's on the phone switch and the AP Max equipment. It's 360, 365 days, 24/7. Replace all hardware, do all software updates, and we use them quite a bit for phone support, and then that's new fans and one core module actually this year. Hard drive was bad in it, so they replace all that under this support agreement.
So this is a renewal, it was budgeted.
Yeah, we've renewed it every year since we had our phone switch.
So this is a budgeted item then?
Yes.
I'll vote to approve.
I'll second. Roll call vote?
We're not that subject to the other subject.
Yeah.
Oh, so,
Caroline.
Tanya,
Reese, aye.
Cyber aye.
all right. Next, we have the fuel bids for the 2021 and to 2023.
Okay, we, this will be a 2-year, agreement on fuel bids. And the way the numbers came out, FSC was a 12-cent discount. Agriland FS was a 14.1-cent discount. And Taylor Quick Pick was an 8-cent discount. We currently are using Agriland FS. It's a card system. It's easy for the employees to use. The billing system are already set up for it, and in this case, they also do the preferred bid.
So they start off with the same pump price?
Agriland FS.
Well, no, all of them, because they're all discounting off the pump price, so.
Yeah.
We're comparing apples to apples.
It changes on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're a couple cents apart.
Sometimes Agriland FS is less.
Yeah.
That's what I run into with the ambulances anyway.
It's not a perfect system, but it's the best we came up with.
Give it a little bit, so I move approval of that.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Caroline.
Tanya,
Reese, aye.
Cyber aye.
all right. Next on the agenda will be the outsourced utility billing with ADT Mealcom.
Okay, this, we currently outsource our billing for the telecom utility, the MAC billing. The basic utility, electric, gas, and water, has always been more or less a process where we lease the stuffer, bill stuffer. We have the postage machine. One of our CSRs has to run everything through the postage machine, go through all the processes. And that's the same case if we have to send out notification letters. So we have to take the paper somewhere to get it printed, go pick that up, we have to buy envelopes, we have to go through all these other processes. And it's not 100% wash, but we do believe there's advantages long-term to outsource that. One of them including being able to, just the time involved for CSR all the time to be putting out the bills and all that work. And when you walk into that room, we've had it tested. It doesn't exceed the limit on hearing, but I'll tell you, when I walk in there, I get headaches. It is a loud process. I wouldn't want to be in there, let me put it that way. But the other things, like I said, is just the convenience of being able to send a draft, send a customer bill information, and the company does it turnkey. They print the bills, they stuff them, and they mail them. It's an all-inclusive. And if we have like a notification that has to go out, say on water or something else like that, we just send it to them. They have all the mail lists, they do all the processing.
Right now, we stuff the monthly newsletter, so do they stuff that too?
Yeah, anything we send them, they would do.
3 times a month, since there's 3 cycles.
Yeah.
And do they do it based on number of pieces, or how do they do
Yes.
it?
Number of pieces, yeah. One of the problems we have is, a lot of times the paper that we get back with, like with the newsletter, for example, you spend just about as much time dealing with paper jams, especially to running it. I mean, we're just not set up to be a print shop and a mail stuffing shop. It's just, we believe it'd be a better, more reliable, more timely response.
So right now, we're leasing some equipment to do that, so is our lease?
Our lease will go on 1 more year. We'll continue to do some of the things ourselves through that year. We contacted them about
Delinquent
trying to get
notices
out of
will still
early.
do.
Yeah, and they said we can if we pay the full price, so we'll have the stuffer for 1 more year. And we'll kind of do a few things on our own, some of the mailings. We do still send out certain notices and things like that on our own anyway, so we're still gonna need a postage machine. But long term, we think we can downsize even the postage machine, so we won't need a bulk matter type, so.
And one thing that is nice is that they just do month-to-month service, so if we try it for 3 months and it's just not working, we can just say, okay, we're gonna go back to old-fashioned way and do it in-house again. So there's still the ability to, we'll do a PDF of all of the bills, and Leila will still be able to go through the bills and see if anything looks off or not before we okay it.
And they'll have the same look as what we have now.
They will just be black instead of blue, just to save on cost. But then at any time, we can always change the form if we want. But right now, we told them,
We would start out with the way it appears now, but we've had some conversations about kind of trying to reformat the bill so that all the electric costs are subtotaled and such. In the past, it was done that way, trying to keep everything on 1 sheet of paper. And I think our customers now are looking for a little bit more detail than that, so we are looking at reformatting the bill.
Are you anticipating this is changing our labor costs in-house at all, or
changing what?
labor costs? I mean,
No.
we do tell.
It won't eliminate a person or anything like that, no. It'll just free up that person to focus on.
It'll give them like 10 to 15 hours a month that they'll be able to work on like other reports.
And is this one of the costs that, because we do the billing for the sewer too? That
We haven't,
that was one of the things that,
Yeah.
that's why we do the sewer billing, is because we do the billing here,
yeah,
so.
we haven't had that conversation with the city yet, but, they had talked in the past about potentially being willing to pay for that service. So that may be something we pursue as a way to contain costs.
So we don't pay any overtime costs or anything for when the bills go out or anything like that? There's no overtime associated with that?
The only time there would be overtime is if like the stuffer would go bad and jam and we can't get it fixed and she might have to wait, or they might have to hand fold bills. And if we can get them still done by the time they need to be at the post office. But on a normal basis, there's not.
We have had occasions where they're all hand stuffing because something's not operating or not working, so.
I move approval of outsourcing now.
I will say I'm not entirely sold on it. I think this is what we do. I think we're outsourcing what we do. I'm not comfortable with it, particularly if we don't have a solution in the city yet. And if we're not actually reducing our costs by doing it, I'm not sure why we're doing it.
Why are we adding them?
Yeah, other than having a slightly noisy room, I'm not sure what our advantage here is, guys. I hate to be that guy, but that's how I feel.
If you'd have told me, yes, we're gonna save on overtime costs, I would have said,
Yeah, I would, but if all we're doing is making it more convenient, we're not adding any cost reduction, and we're actually increasing our costs, I'm just not feeling it. Unless you can give me a better reason, then.
And do we have another potential cost?
Yeah, we know what the costs are. Jenny, I don't have that number in front of me. What was that comparative price between the two?
When you get rid of the stuffing machine, it comes out even.
okay, but we still have that for another year, right?
Right, yeah.
It's 69 cents per bill.
But if we still have to pay for that other stuff for another year, I think we should revisit this in another year. That, I guess, is what I feel. If we still got the contracts on those other
Yeah,
machines.
I can see that. I can also see, let's see if we can get the city to foot the bill for part of it, since that's, we've been doing it for the city based on the idea that it didn't cost the city anything for us to do it, but now it's costing us to do it, and I don't like it.
And it would be easy I actually have a breakdown if you break it down by service. So they would pay for 2 services, we would pay for 3 services.
That would be nice
Per
to have
piece.
that all established before we approve it. Plus, I'm with Nella, if we're still making payments on machinery, we might as well keep using it. If there's no cost saving potential here, this doesn't seem like the time to add cost.
Yeah, that, I guess, is my thought. I think it's twofold. Get the city involved in paying for whatever we're billing for them, and wait until we get rid of our contracts on the other machinery. I don't know, that's probably not what you wanted to hear.
We do have a motion on the floor, so if someone wants to second it.
Or conduct like I said.
Make it back to like I said.
Martin, Randy,
Yeah.
we did. All right.
Guys, for like I say.
Sorry to kill your motion. Not yet.
All right, moving on then, the telecom petition items, the asset appraisal agreement from Equipment Marketeers and Appraisals, $15,000, Consortia 5-year outlook.
Yes, we did receive that appraisal agreement from Equipment Marketers and Appraisers for $15,000. There were a couple of items in that agreement that we're waiting for the revised copy back. It had to do with confidentiality. The appraiser had a statement in there about the information being confidential between them and us. There again, once we receive it, it's public. So we just wanted to clarify that within the agreement. So as soon as he provides a clean copy of that, that was the only issue. Matt, that was the only issue you had, wasn't it?
Yeah, did you want me to read that one line to Matt that we were
Yeah, go ahead.
questioning?
And that's what Matt thinks about that one line.
I need that, he is muted, so. Matt, are you still there? Matt?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, in that agreement, there was a line that talked about confidential, and we took that out. There was also the following line that said, any publication without the written consent of both the addressee and appraiser will be strictly prohibited. Did you want that line removed also?
I want everything removed. The under where it says it's bottom of the first page, the last paragraph, this appraisal report will be confidential and is intended for the exclusive use of the addressee only. Any publication without written consent of both the appraiser and us is strictly prohibited. Now, I understand why they put language like that in there. But this is a situation, they're basically, in my opinion, are trying to cover themselves if it becomes public and then they were way off on what their estimate might be, or for the appraisal of the assets. Now, they even reference Iowa Code Section 388.2 in the document, but this scenario is very, very different because it's been a situation where it's a public petition requiring a public vote that wasn't brought by the utility or the city itself. And so I can see many situations where this confidentiality, we would have to violate it, just by maybe, subpoenaed documents, things like that, depending on where things go, just because it was brought the way it was brought. So if you want me to go through the document, I can do that, but I think it might be better to put me in touch with whoever drafted the document, or maybe the attorneys for this particular company, and kind of explain the situation a little more thoroughly. But my recommendation is that it can't be signed until all of the confidentiality wording in the document is removed. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, because it also is confidentiality down under research.
Yeah, there's a couple of different places where they talk about confidentiality, and that was the issue, so. All right, we can put Matt in touch with this appraiser to get the document revised. So I guess what this would be then would be the subject to final legal review.
Yeah, I mean, just the one line starting that paragraph, this report will be confidential, is just intended for the exclusive use of HMU, and then it says that this, cannot, the information we get from them cannot be divulged. So I think it'd be just easier for me to kind of talk to them and see if we can't, because that's, confidentiality is mentioned by name 4 times, and then, it's just too much in there that we can't sign it as it is, in my opinion.
Okay. Or do we want to wait and address it at our next meeting? We can do that as well.
Yeah.
I think that's better.
Okay.
I agree.
We'll take
Online, you got it corrected.
Do you think that's feasible to bring it back at the May 13th meeting, Matt?
Yeah, I do. I don't see any reason why not. I guess it depends on the response I get, but, I just need to know who to talk to, and I can do that pretty much right away.
I'll connect you with them, Matt.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll table item 14 till the May 13th meeting. Number 15 on the agenda is going to be the CSR.
Were you going to go over the consortium 5-year outlook?
Oh, sorry.
The consortium 5-year, as the board might recall, last fall, we had a consortium do a cash flow projection for the telecom utility. And then we found out that the information under the petition, response to the petition, required a 5-year projection. So consortia did provide the information on a 5-year outlook. That's the summary document and information that we provided. And so we just want to bring that to the attention of the board that work has been completed. There will probably be a follow-up invoice for making that adjustment, but we don't have it yet. But we want to make you aware of the fact that that has been completed, so.
Okay, so is there,
There's no action
motion
on
that
that.
needs, okay. All right, now we'll move on to item 15, which would be the CSR, telecommunication internal posting. Allow a part-time employee to work over 25 hours until position is filled.
And this likely will only be a couple weeks, but we wanted to make sure our bases were covered since that part-time employee is only allowed 25 hours a week.
We had a CSR resign and take a job in the city, so.
I move to approve overtime until the position is filled.
And it's not even overtime, it's just up to 40 hours because she's only allowed 25.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jerry, I can tell.
Connie, I'm
Freeze on.
Cyber Day.
All right, that passed then. COVID-19 policy updates. All items are currently in effect until the end of this month, and we're just seeing if we want to continue them or how we want to proceed.
What's the status on HMU getting vaccines?
Getting vaccines,
Yes,
everyone has been offered the opportunity to get a vaccine, so everyone that wanted one has received one.
okay.
That hasn't changed since the last meeting.
And have you each gotten 2 vaccines, or has it been the Johnson & Johnson that was only required to get 1, or?
A little bit of both.
The ones that we know of that did it through HMU got the Johnson & Johnson one.
Okay.
The other ones, we don't know what they got because they didn't do it through us.
Well, then the question is, how long do you want to keep the COVID policies in place?
I think the discussion we had last time is once everybody's had the opportunity to be vaccinated, and it's, at that point, it's their choice. And whatever their choice is, I'm okay with it. It's their choice.
It's their choice.
So that's fine. At that point, I think we give them the choice. I don't know if we need to continue with our policy.
Is there anything in the policy currently that you, as the CEO, believe needs to stay in place?
No, Jenny, have we got anybody that's pushing the exhausting hours related to COVID or anything like that?
No, but the whole policy itself encompasses that they have to watch for warning signs, stay away from work, more than just what's listed in here. These are just the items that we have been extending by month. So if you want to get rid of the whole policy, then essentially you're getting rid of telling people that they need to stay home if they have the fever or any of the signs or symptoms also.
Do a lot of employees come to work sick?
I don't know. Do they? To the supervisors? I mean, before COVID, there was probably people that came to work when they had colds or stuffy noses or, yeah, I would say so, but.
And some of the other part of that is like we've been requiring vendors and salespeople, anybody like that, to wear a mask if they come into the office.
And I think that's very prudent.
Yeah.
I really do.
So we've had that. We do still request of employees, write down vehicles and equipment. We do still ask that they, personal protective equipment, if they believe it's necessary to go into customers' homes, that type of thing. So I mean, there's some of those things, ancillary type things that we're still following, so.
COVID is not going to go away.
No.
It's like the flu. It's just going to be here. And so there's precautions that we have to take.
Yeah.
Not coming to work when we're not feeling well is a big one.
And can I ask those of you that have businesses, what are you guys still doing? Are you guys making employees stay home if they have temperatures or fevers? What are you guys doing?
That's kind of a given. I mean, that's, whether it's COVID or whether it's something else, if you're sick, you need to stay home. Now, does everybody follow it? I can't answer that, but, that's supposed to be kind of the norm.
We're still operating under the mask mandate and the same things that we had been doing. However, we had a glove policy, an expanded glove policy that we've backed off of. And in general, we're still kind of operating the same way we were, but we were never truly open to the public, so that was never a concern. So
They open. So, we've been open for 6 weeks-ish. We asked the customers that they wear masks when they come in, and most do. And actually, traffic has been less than what it was because people have gotten a new small way of doing their banking now, and so we don't get a lot of traffic, but it's worked out fine. People are very good about it.
Are we currently by appointment only, or are we not open at all?
We're gonna reopen, May 1. And
We've been by appointment only, but we've not had anyone that needed to actually come in to have an appointment.
the May 1, we intended to open it back up to the public, but it'd be a limit of 2 people in the lobby, and they have to wear a mask. If they don't have a mask, they won't be allowed in. So.
I think that's very responsible.
Now, I have very few people come into my office. They just don't. And as for my employees, they take their temperatures when they get to the office. And every fall they go out and they have a mask and gloves and eye covering, and whether we're told they're negative COVID or not. We've learned you can be negative COVID one day and the next day you can be positive. So we just don't take anything at face value.
Yeah. I think what it comes down to is, we had made some special considerations, the 14 days, 2 weeks of leave, being able to roll minus 40 on leave. I think those are the questions I think that we're really trying to address. Most of the rest of it, I think we just can summarize as continue to follow CDC and public health guidelines. So.
And stress that don't come to work if you have a fever, don't feel well.
Right.
Even as much as a cold, because a lot of people just, if they have a cold, then they can be positive for COVID. So. But I don't think we need to continue the negative. Do you think we need to continue the negative time? And
That's a tricky question, because one minute you're telling people don't come to work if you have a cold, the next minute you're telling them that they're not going to extend it. It's kind of contradicts each other. So.
And that's the point, but we also have a pretty good sick leave policy too.
We do.
And welcome, we hope people don't come to work sick. I know they do. But I think people need to be a little smarter now. I'm watching it a little closer. I think if you look at other businesses, they're not continually offering these things.
No.
The county is offering COVID pay through the end of June, I believe I had written down at the last meeting. And I'm not sure how long the city is, but theirs is, they are, Jean, how long are you guys offering the COVID pay?
Yes, this is Gene. Hopefully you can hear me. We've not had, So in terms of COVID pay, there's not been COVID pay as far as any additional pay. As far as according to FERCA, so I think that's what we're referring to, is that Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, which ended in December 31. That component of that, we just extended that through May 31st, and there's not an intention or recommendation to go beyond May 31st for FERCA. In addition, as far as any other extensions, we've not had the negative leave balances throughout this policy. And after May 31st, we look to be as normal can be, right? So, but there's not a recommendation that we're going to propose at this time to the council. So May 31st is what you're looking for.
All right.
That helps.
Yep.
Well, basically, we started determining whether we're going to extend this at all past April 30th, and I'm kind of getting the impression that no, was.
I guess I don't think we have to. They've all got, whoever wants their vaccines have got their vaccines. if you didn't want your vaccine, you didn't want it,
Yeah, I mean,
it was your choice.
Yeah,
the idea that moving forward, you're right, COVID is gonna be with us for a long, long time, and it's gonna be a risk that everybody's gonna deal with in the future, but at some point in time, this goes back to normal, and I'd say that I don't know that we've needed most of this to be even throughout it, so as moving forward, I'm inclined to say that we should let it expire April 30th and be done with it.
Yeah. And just,
I would like to say the staff here has managed it very well, the whole COVID thing. They need to be commended for how they handled it. It's gone well.
and they just have to continue to use their common sense when wear their masks, wear their eye protection, if they need eye protection, and gloves, and if they walk up to the house and the person inside looks sick, just say, hey, I'm not comfortable going in your house. We'll come back at another time.
Do we pre-screen customers when they're going to their houses as to,
We had been asking, questions before we made calls. Are we still asking questions, Jen?
I believe so? Because I do mobile notary and it's required by me to ask any client when I confirm their appointment, have you had international travel for 14 days? Have you had close contact with anyone testing positive for 14 days? And are you currently experiencing any symptoms? I ask that for every client and I have to answer it for myself as well. And I think that that's just good practice. So, I mean, I would say that maybe just even having something like that, simple routine of just pre-asking before you show up.
Some of the cautionary type things.
And I bet you wear a mask.
I am required to wear a mask and I do wear a mask. And I would wear a mask even if they didn't require me to. Yeah, I'm going somewhere I'm not sure where I'm going to be encountering. And when I get to the door, if I feel that there is something that causes alert to me because of health risk, I have the right to back out and not go in. So I would say that, common sense.
So as far as our, I don't know if it's policy or, do we just need to subtract these things out of it and leave the rest of it in place as far as if you're not feeling well, don't come to work, masks, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think the ones, the ABC are kind of the ones that I think are the question. Those are the things whether we continue them or not. So, and from what I'm hearing from the board, it's everybody's had an opportunity to have a shot, get vaccinated, so it's time to move past that part.
That's what I think too.
So should we just vote on ABC then? Or just vote to just keep everything through April 30th with no further extension?
Okay, do I have a motion for that then?
I'll move no further extension.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Caroline.
Connie, aye.
Pre-sign.
Cyber Eye.
All right, moving on to the COVID-19 policy updates. Currently in temporary policy that haven't been updated would be the travel for non-essential travel has been suspended and we're looking to maybe remove that.
Yeah, that's what we're asking is if we should keep that or go ahead and allow travel to resume. But according to the previous motion, I'm assuming they'll allow, you guys are saying that it's okay and safe for employees to start to travel for meetings.
We are starting to see where they're starting to schedule a call for some in-person type training and stuff to start again, so.
So just back to our normal travel policy. If we could just get a vote on that.
I made that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Caroline.
Connie, aye.
Pre-sign.
Cyber Eye.
All right, then number 18 will be information and discussion only on the McClure invoice, water system expert witness of $3,839.28. And the NPDES permit draft is out for public notice, posted for comment until April 26th.
Right, and that was, we received that, and I forwarded that to the board back on March 30th, so we just wanted to bring out to the public that we did receive that draft of the NPDES permit, which is the discharge from the water plant. And we did have that 45-day public comment period that's out there, and so that's what we're in the midst of at this point. But basically, the permit does not require any type of remediation. So we don't have to make any changes to our current discharge, other than just continuing to monitor and report. So, and that was a 5-year, right, Dar, I think?
5 year, but the subject that has to come up again, then we have to do the testing again.
Yeah. The next go around on testing in the 5 years, we'll have to do another 3 tests. So. Have we got any public comments? We haven't seen anything unless it's gone to the DNR, and we haven't heard about it.
Anything else with that? Then it's the CEO report.
Okay, we had our all-employee meeting yesterday, and basically went over the things we plan to discuss at the board meeting today, which we always do. In conjunction with that, we also had we had a customer actually call and express their appreciation. They were upset with some of the things that have been out on social media, and they thought our employees don't deserve that type of treatment. And they wanted to express their belief that we do provide good service. So that's kudos for all employees. We had some anniversaries. Lexi Hagel, 10 years. She started 4/4 of 2011. Devin McLaughlin started 4/18 of 2005. And Colburn Warner started 4/21 of 2014. So that was just recognition of anniversaries for employees for the month of April. The other thing we want to know, we do have a sponsorship ad that's going to be coming out for graduates. We do that every year, so that's going to be upcoming. 4/18 was Lineman Appreciation Day. So our linemen are short-staffed, but they get overworked at this point in time, but they've been doing a tremendous job. And then also yesterday was Admin Appreciation Day. And so I expressed that for our Director of Administration plus the CSRs who provide a lot of administrative support. So, the other thing, we were notified by the APPA, the American Public Power Association, that we did receive a certificate of excellence and reliability for the calendar year 2020. So we'll be ordering a certificate and a plaque for posting here locally in that regard. And then also in communications, considering all the water work, water development, some of the telecom activities and everything else, we did have a consortium do a cash flow update on telecom. But probably at a future date, I'll be coming back to the board with a recommendation to have PFM do an update on the water utility as well, just so we can see where we stand. Another item that I want to bring to the board's attention, I approved a new process with our gas utility. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up, but this will be where our big board comes into play in the future. But basically, it's a meter bypass on the gas meters. There'll be a lock and a key so that we can bypass the meter to do our meter change outs and everything. Right now, if we change out a meter, we have to turn off the service, which means we have to arrange a schedule with the customer to be there so we can go back in and turn everything back on. So we change out the meter, then we have to go and relight everything. Like I said, it's kind of a scheduling problem sometimes with customers getting that all laid out. So this bypass system will allow us to change gas meters, both residential and commercial, without interruption of service to the customers. So we can go out and build whenever we have the time, or we can schedule the time, and there'll be no interruption of service to the customers, no inconvenience. We won't have to worry about the scheduling issue. So I went ahead and approved that change for our gas utility. We did receive our 2021 water quality report. This was published as well. So that went out this month. And we already talked about the IDNR's water supply sanitary survey, so we have a copy of that available for anyone interested in seeing that. One item that I wanted to bring to the board's attention, I'm sure you've probably heard, maybe you haven't, about the shortage of chips and vehicles. So we had one of our trucks was scheduled for replacement this year. There's just nothing available, nothing being produced right now. It looks like it's going to carry into the fall. And then we've got another vehicle that's scheduled for replacement for next fiscal year. But what I told the staff to do, both of those require specialized utility boxes, and there is a scheduled price increase coming up in those utility boxes. So we're going to go ahead and purchase the utility boxes so that we have those on hand and we can keep them at the dealers. We don't have to take physical delivery of them. And then as soon as we're able to locate these vehicles, once they're back in production again, then we'll go ahead and we'll do the vehicle that was scheduled for this year and the vehicle that's scheduled for the next fiscal year. So, but it's been tough trying to find vehicles. So, the only other thing that I had on my list was, well, two more things, I guess. We've been working with the city on their comprehensive plan. So in the midst of reviewing, they had a meeting that I zoomed into. And there was some public contact, so that's going to kind of be another iterative process, but it's the last comprehensive, Gene, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last one was like 2010. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we had just kicked it off about a week before COVID hit last year, so it had been on the pause button. So, and it was the 2010, and we're just getting back underway with that.
So we are working with the city on that update to the comprehensive plan. The only other item that I wanted to bring the attention to the board is in relation to our office opening and being able to control the front entry. We are going to do some additional front door security with a camera and some control locks on the entry doors. So that'll be upcoming. Right now, the estimate we have is $2,900. That includes the camera and all the controls. And it includes labor and everything else for rewiring and a number of other items. So some of that we may be able to offset with some of our own staff. We'll take another look at that. But I just want the board to be aware that we will be installing to where we can control access to the front door, for example. It'll also have an intercom system. So if somebody comes in and gets through the first door and doesn't have a mask, we can lock the interior door and say you need to wear a mask before we let them in, that type of thing. But it also provides us some additional controls from a safety standpoint for front door access. So.
And were you going to check with them on revising it without the cameras?
Well,
or not, or just leave it on?
He decided we're going to need the camera because now the control is going to have to go to the exterior door just because of the way that the emergency safety stuff's set up on the interior door. So I haven't gotten through all of it yet, but we'll be talking about this before we do it in a bit more detail. But that's all I have. Any questions? A lot of things to talk about. I appreciate the board's time and consideration and diligence in this regard. And those couple of items that got laid over, we'll get some better information and get back with you on that.
Okay. Anything else? Is there anyone from the public that has a comment? Question?
If I may, if you can still hear me, this is Gene. Am I still coming through all right?
Yeah.
Yes, just in regards to the water conservation, water-wise, and the policy, it's been excellent to work with the HMU team and Ken. These certainly are challenging times, goes without saying. And, in times such as this, I think we're all challenged to think critically and creatively. And in partnership with Ken and his team, that's certainly been happening. They aren't quick fixes, but certainly see even elements within this updated policy that, it's not going to cover everything, as Ken and I have discussed, and I think everyone needs to be aware of. And as, a utility that serves our community and certainly our general government. There are many items we provide as a public to the public, and one item within the policy, and then I'll close with that, and it references general welfare of the community in terms of this water-wise policy. And in serving the public, there's a lot of things fall under general welfare in terms of economic, social, emotional benefit to providing public space. And we'll continue to work collaboratively and work jointly to get through, these times. But just appreciate the partnership.
Thank you, Gene. There is one more comment in that regard, and that is we did receive an email today from McClure Engineering that the USDA does have funding available yet this fiscal year for the type of project that we will be looking at. So based on the board's actions today to kind of move forward with that whole engineering and design, we're going to go ahead and have McClure make application on our behalf for USDA funding. So, of course, it's just an application at this point. Any formalization will come at a later date with board action. So,
If there's no other comments, we will adjourn.
thank you all. Appreciate it.